Sabres Summer Series, second year Sabres, breaking down the expectations for next year.
All right.
And best case scenario. So there's a lot of, so let's just make sure we clarify second year Sabres, because I think people are thinking Middlestat. I think people are thinking Dahlin, and they are, and Tage Thompson and, a few other guys. But there are others that fall under the second year Sabres, not second year players. So it's not a sophomore
Second year
season.
with the organization.
So yes, so Connor Sheary's on there, Jeff Skinner. Here's the list right here. Second year Sabres. Dahlin's on there, Matt Hunwick's on there, Carter Hutton's on there, Casey Middlestat, Brandon Montour, Victor Olofsson, Lawrence Pilot, Connor Sheary, Jeff Skinner, Vladimir Sobotka, Tage Thompson, Linus Ullmark. I'm trying to think about which one of these players has the most expectation on them. I think Skinner is probably number one.
Top of the list.
Let's start with top of the list. $9 million bucks a year. I'm not going to go and say that he has to score 40 goals, but I'm going to say that I've got some high expectations for him for this year. Mid to high 30s. Produce a lot of points. Play on probably that top line with Jack. Probably the easiest one to talk about.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I'm sure he has higher expectations than what I'm even giving him. He's probably looking at me going, thinking if he were here 35, I have expectations of 45, but whether you get there or not.
This guy's a competitor. This guy is, all he wants to do is win. He wants to influence his team. He wants to make his line mates around him better by being that kind of productive player. Rob certainly has a pretty good location down between the benches to hear the chatter that goes on during the game, and Jeff is very engaged in that. I like that part of his game as well.
There hasn't been a lot of talking over the years.
No, but I like the fact that he doesn't mind getting involved in that, and if whatever helps him get into the game, and I think a lot of guys, you've been around players like that, some guys will chirp and talk and get involved in conversations on the ice because that helps them get that look on the ice. You almost try to get yourself angry into the game, don't you? You try to grow into it and say, look, I kind of need to be PO'd at somebody right now going onto the ice because it's game 42 and we're in whatever city and I'm a bit tired tonight, so I'm going to get myself into the game.
If you're talking to another player, odds are you're engaging in some way.
That's what I'm saying. You're getting engaged into the game.
And these guys are, trying to shut him down. I mean, let's be honest. It's a compliment when a guy goes on the ice and teams focus on you. You don't want to be the guy that just kind of leave him alone. He's
dialed in.
But he gives it back, and that's what makes him special. And he can elevate his game. I shouldn't say he will, but he can elevate his game, and he does elevate his game. I feel when he has that nasty bite.
Yes. How many guys you've been around that you wish were just a little bit not dirty, but a little bit nastier in their game? And I don't mean Jeff Skinner's nasty. I just mean his bite to his game.
There's one player I played with that I think he was so big, he was so strong, he was a bull, he had an unbelievable shot, and I always said if he just would charge through somebody on a forecheck, he might kill them. It was Al Kodalik.
Oh yeah.
He was 6'2", he was 230 pounds, and he was 7% body fat. Right. And he had an unbelievable, he looked like a genetic freak, and he just, it's like he had this body and this presence of a lion, but he had the presence of a kitten. He just, it was kind of like, just wish. I love Al. Don't get me wrong. I just wish
he's not alone. A lot of guys who are built like a brick,
and I think that can be the deterring factor between a guy being really great and a difference maker or just being, good. And Al was a good player, but he could have been great if he knew how to use his size maybe a little more. I'm not talking about hitting and fighting. I'm saying
neither am I. It's just a bite. Where's the bite? Where's the I am not
a pushback to get to the net.
Pushback. Great word. Just a pushback into the game.
Those two words.
That being said, one of the names on your list, I'm going to bring it up because I think he has it in him, is Casey Middlestat. So when you talk about growth in a young man's game, I'm looking forward to seeing, and it's still very early in Casey's career, but I do know what his mindset, just from conversations, I don't know him as a human outside the game, it's just chats we have in the room. I do see it in his eyes, I hear it in his comments, that Casey has that kind of same way about him, that he, without swearing on the air, he has that blank you attitude as well. And what it needs to do is find its way to grow in this game. And whether that's learning the game, learning the opposition, learning what's required, I think he has that same hunger that Skinner has, and he just has to find a way, and he will. Again, we're talking a second-year player in this league. I think he does find his way. I think we see a
time
little
to develop that. Look, everyone thinks Milan Lucic, is like this mean, tough player. I'm going to tell you something. He didn't say a word against us when we played against him when he was a rookie. He developed that over time, that confidence. And I'm not saying that this kid's going to be Milan Lucic. Don't mistake what I'm saying, but I'm saying to develop an edge or feel more comfortable using your edge and
that's a better way to put it right there.
It's interesting because everyone's always like, oh, Milan Lucic, he's so tough. And I'm just thinking like, what? I wish we played against Milan Lucic. I wish he was the toughest guy we had to face on any given night because he wasn't that tough and wasn't that scary. You know what I mean? Like he was silent. Merzy used to go after him all the time. He didn't say boo. And Johnny Erskine punched his head off his shoulders his rookie year, and we thought that was going to be the end of him. And then Lucic just keeps coming back. But like it takes time to develop that confidence to use that bite. I mean, I don't think Jeff Skinner is an 18-year-old pup in this league was, shouting back at guys. In fact, he might have been, but he might also had some, heavy artillery behind him to help him out. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is, Casey Middlestad, I remember we did expectations for players last year, and I don't like doing it, but I do because we can do that here, and it's okay if we're wrong, it's okay if it's great if we're right, but you wouldn't like it if you're a player in the locker room hearing these numbers. Last year, I think, numbers were being thrown around for Middlestad, like 50 points. I'm thinking, what kind of expectation are you trying to put on this kid? Like, he's got to learn how to play defense in this league. He's got to learn how to try to produce offense in this league as a 19-year-old player. And, I'm thinking that's unfair. I think I set around 30 points, and he had 25 points. I think this year is that year where Casey Middlestad can kind of take that step up in points, maybe up in ice time, circumstantial ice time, maybe because he has a defensive element to his game, and we saw that in college. But again, it's hard to translate that to the NHL at a young age. I'm gonna throw. I don't think there's any question that this kid could put up 40 points this year. I think this is a year he can get 40.
Well, he's a smart player. As I said, the reason I kind of transitioned into Casey is he does have that very same edge. I've seen it. The tough thing, as is to bring that on nights where you can't seemingly make anything work. So we talked about Sidney Crosby in the opening. There are games you watch Sidney Crosby play where he hasn't done a thing all night, but then all of a sudden he has the puck in the corner and Sidney Crosby just says, I got this. I'm with you. I'm not comparing Sidney to Casey Middlestad, but I will compare the mindset of an elite player. And I think Casey has the makeup of someone who can be an elite player when it comes to scoring goals and, yes, being a two-way player in this game. Look at him. We're watching some highlights here. This is a confident kid. And once he continues to...
That's why he did that thing against Vancouver. And he did that against Michigan State University in college, too.
But you talk about growth at some point. It is a young man's game generally. So at some point when he's skating down... If he's going by a bench, if he's got something that he's aiming more kind of towards his own bench, that was on a penalty shot goal that we showed here. So
I love
apologies to the radio
I don't
people.
have a problem with it either.
Yeah, he's not. Listen, there's chirping all game. They're chirping on the bench to him, so that's his way of chirping back. It's a little different aspect there, but I hold out some real good hope, and I don't go with numbers on expectations, but I want to see Casey's growth as. His confidence in this game, just see how it can maybe take over a little bit more. And I really think that can happen for him.
I used to love talking to the other team's bench. I think players should do it. You know what? I loved it. I mean, it was one of the things I used to love just on the ice, skating by, coming off.
No matter what sport,
because you always heard the same stuff from the bench from them. You get the same cliche stuff, but the stuff you could throw back, and I loved it. I love when guys do it. And I remember that game, and I think Casey had to explain himself for that, if I'm not mistaken.
He may have. Certainly not to me. I would never ask him about it.
I love it. I mean, I think showboating should be part of the game, especially nowadays. You don't have to have a guy come and jump you for scoring a nice goal.
For people who didn't see it because they're listening on radio, it wasn't a major showboat or showing anything up. He skated by a bench and he did a little.
And he may not have even been talking to them. He may have been pointing at his own team. I think Vancouver took it, may have taken it a little far. But in the end of the day,
going that great for Vancouver either, so they would.
Rasmus Dahlin.
Jump in on that.
We're doing Sabres Summer Series and second-year Sabres, not just second-year players, but second-year Sabres. And
are we allowed to have favorite players given what we do?
Well, sure.
Do you have one? Yeah, it's Rasmus Dahlin. This kid, his love for the game, his enthusiasm, his willingness not to let an off night bother him, not to let the gaggle of reporters asking questions about a mistake made on the ice in their minds because they played the game somewhere else before, and asking him about it didn't bother him at all. And he still had a smile on his face, and he still kind of was in awe of where he is. And I have a ton of respect for the young man for that, and I can't wait to see where this thing goes. So based on his hockey skills and hockey talent, I think it's unbelievable what we're about to see here in year number 2. And then we'll say the same for year 3, year 4, year 5. We'll come to expect it by those years. But for year 2, I mean, look out. The moments that we're going to see from this young man, I can't wait.
Well, we talk about confidence, right?
Yes.
And he is.
It's a
I don't
quiet
know. I don't know
confidence.
how. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you what he thinks about his own game. You'd almost think that he was just kind of like, he would think that he's like, I was okay. You know what I love about this kid?
Or it comes so easy to him.
He just
Yeah.
He just goes on the ice. And used to say this about young guys all the time. And I was a guy that had to fight in the league. So, going to hit somebody, and wondering if they were going to come after you was like a non-thought because it was expected. And there are some guys that go out there and they're a little timid. They're a little, we talk about confidence, a little shout back, biting back, and young players, and it takes time to develop that. He came right out of the gate and showed no fear and eliminating bodies, body checking right from prospect camp.
Guys
where
tried to
he
run him
got-
over and they
Yep.
fell down. He was still on his feet all season long. It was amazing to watch. I just think the world of him, first of all, as a human being, as a young man, and secondly, his talents are really second to none for young defensemen, certainly that I've been around in my career, as far as, and certainly have had the chance to call many on the international stage. I remember Victor Hedman when I was calling the World Juniors in Sweden, watching this guy just run people over and carry the puck and shoot the puck and scare the living daylights out of people. I thought, this Victor Hedman's going to be insane in the National Hockey League. Turned out to be a pretty good hockey player. You watch Darlene, who's a different kind of Victor Hedman. He's not going to run guys over. But this young man does not back down from anything.
If I'm not mistaken,
in his first year.
If I'm not mistaken, he had the best and worst game in the same night.
Probably.
Remember that game in
think I know where you're
Pittsburgh? They
going.
were down by 3, and they came back. It was during the 10-game win streak. They came back in the third, and they beat Pittsburgh. And he made an unbelievable move on Malkin and just blew by Malkin like he was a broken hockey stick. He had the best night and the worst night, I think, all in the same night. And I think that's kind of what showed. You talk about mental toughness when we talk about Federer and Djokovic and all this stuff. But as a young kid, okay, to go out there and make glaring mistakes, and then go out there and dazzle you, there's something special to that. And it brought me, that one game brought me to thinking about one player. I remember in the playoffs 5 years ago, Drew Doughty tried to walk somebody between the top of the circle and his blue line in the offensive zone. He tried to toe drag and walk in and shoot. He got stripped. It was a shorthanded goal. It was in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Stripped. Guy goes down. He's back checking, and they scored. I think it was Chicago even. Next period, same spot, tries the same move, and he shelved it. And I'm thinking to myself, that is a man who does not care, and he is extremely confident. And that's what I saw that night. I'm not saying he's going to be Drew Doughty. In fact, he might even be better. But all I'm saying is that kind of come back and just continue to just bring your game back up to that level. He didn't sink. He didn't collapse. I played with young players, and I was one of these guys. You have a bad shift, they're done. They're done.
There's a maturity to Rasmus that it's interesting to watch. And certainly in his first year, the mature moments were noticed in how he handled really every single thing, as you mentioned, that came along, the good, the bad, the ugly. He was just level-headed. And then when you asked him about, on a personal level, just to realize kind of, hey, you kind of realize where your life is right now? How cool is this? And this big smile would come over his face. And he just loves the game so much. And I think that has a big part of it. When you find a guy that has his talent and then really is that in love with the game of hockey, it's crazy where this kid's going to go.
Well,
I'm going to say young man. I
and
need to
still a
take the
kid, too.
part
I never
back.
said this on the air. We got to go to break, but I took my little guy to WWE, and we had a seat. It was the first row, dead center ice at the 200 level for the WWE, and then it was right around Christmas time, and in comes Darlene and his family, right? And they were just kind of sitting down the level below. So he's living a little bit. He's still a kid going to WWE. So I wonder if he's trying to figure out some stuff about how to play in the corners.
Listen, he took in the entire city, every city we went to on the road. Obviously, I didn't pal around with him, but he was just so wide-eyed and, hey, seeing the world and loving it. And, again, his talent speaks for itself. So